Hello, I'm Bridget LaPierre,
And I'm Tannah Sellers.
and today we're going to be reading our Strategy 7 from our Integrating Language Arts and Social Studies. And this strategy is developing maps and skills, and it's from Leah M. Melber and Alice Hunter.
Perfect. So the introduction for our strategy is all about developing map skills. So developing map skills in elementary students can help them as they explore and understand their own neighborhood and school. Sinal and Hawes, 2005, maintained that one of the best ways to learn the definition of a map is to make your own maps. These same authors advise teachers to assist the youngest learners by exposing them to maps with few symbols and having them create their own simple maps. The reading and creating of maps should inspire elementary students to think of themselves not only as part of their neighborhood, but also as part of a community, the nation, and the world. Parker, 2009, identifies 5 different skills essential for understanding maps and mapping. Directional orientation, map skills, place location, location expression, and map symbols. Directional orientation refers to whether a learner understands the concepts of near and far, as well as north, south, east, and west. When asked to point to north, many elementary students point above their head and point to the south as the floor. Teachers need to clarify directional orientation as it applies to a flat map. Map skills relate to the fact that mathematics is an essential skill relating to producing a scale, that is, translating something from a large size to a smaller one. Place location for younger students relates to helping them see how the places they already know can be represented on a map. For older elementary students, place location refers to using a grid to locate locations by identifying coordinates. Location expression means that learners are able to reference one local to another. In other words, where is a school in relation to their home? Where is their best friend's home in relation to their home? Finally, young learners need to be taught how the sites and locations that they know can be transformed into symbols that make sense to them on a mapping representation. Asking elementary school students to create their own maps of the places they know can help them understand all the map skills that they need to know. This exploration can be as expansive as exploring their own neighborhood or be as personally relevant as mapping their school, classroom, home, or a room in their home.
Awesome. So moving on to the strategies used for the social studies and our language arts around this developing map skill and the strategy. So we have in our social studies section, we have people, place, and environments, standard 4. We have individual developments and identity, and then moving into our standards for English language arts. Research process and completing their own maps will build vocab as well as supporting research comprehension skills. Students research creating their own maps will support reading comprehension as well as building new vocab. Standard 3, students apply a wide range of strategies to comprehend, interpret, evaluate, and appreciate text. They draw on their prior experiences, their interactions with other readers and writers, their knowledge and word meaning in other text, the word identification strategies, and their understanding of text features, sound letter correspondence, sentence structure, context, and graphics. Moving on to standard 4, students adjust their use of spoken, written, and visual language, conversation style, vocabulary to communicate effectively with a variety of audiences and different purposes. Standard 10, students whose first language is not English makes use of their first language to develop competencies in English language arts and to develop understanding of content across the curriculum. And I just wanted to throw this in there. So this is a technology connection. Most of us have discovered that online mapping programs can be a great help in locating local addresses or even planning a trip across the country. Students may decide to compare their maps with other available on the internet. They may want to map out fantasy trips in line with other topics of studies, Um, so yeah, these are some really awesome standards that go with this strategy, and I really like that technology connection. So going right into our key themes would be like making observations of known places, translating personal observations to generalization, communicating observations to others, and analyzing data to create maps. And yeah, so that's our key terms and also our studies that are that go with this strategy.
Thank you, Bridger. To touch on the standards, I'm going to be reading a little excerpt from an article called Navigating Maps to Support Comprehension When Textbooks Don't Have GPS by Catherine Roberts and Christy Bruger. I'm just taking the standards part out of this. It's like a 15-page article that has a lot of really good information about maps and how to incorporate like mapping into your lesson plans. So we live in a world of standards we agree and disagree with, standards that change from time to time, but standards that we are always obligated to teach, and lots of them. However, a careful crosswalk of these standards documents brings the pleasant surprise that the whole may be less than the sum of the parts. Take, for example, the end goals of the Common Core State Standards for English Language Arts, which states that students should build strong content knowledge and understand other perspectives and cultures. Through statements like these and explicit standards in informational and content area literacy, the introduction of the Common Core provided an opportunity for social study educators to reframe instruction to promote disciplinary literacy in such a way as to allow students social studies to regain a more balanced and elevated role in the K-12 curriculum via integration with language arts. For its part, the College Career and Civic Life Framework, C3 for Social Study State Standards, NCSS 2013, and outlines an inquiry arc across the various social study disciplinaries in which children are to engage in the process of developing questions, gathering and evaluating evidence, and presenting findings. As part of this, students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades are expected to create maps and other graphic representations of both familiar and unfamiliar places. In addition, both the C3 and CCSS, as well as most state standards document for social studies, focus on creating critical thinkers, which cannot be done well without teaching kids to be critical of their texts. Students must view their maps as tools that can be used for learning, not only for the types of learning proposed by teacher-initiated questions, but also independently. In our experience, many teachers do not hold this, or many children do not hold this point of view, as evidence stated by one of the 4th grade students who told us that the purpose of a color-coded map was, quote, to read the colors and color the map to get a good grade, end quote. In order to facilitate more critical use of maps and prepare students to become informed, civic-minded individuals, teachers must utilize both powerful geography and literacy instruction, also in spite of the challenge posed by limitations of textbooks and traditional pedagogy that they are asked to use. So I think that is a good way of talking about how we can integrate the standards. Bridger, do you want to talk about our next resource?
Yes, I do. So this one is written, or I guess our title here is You Are Here Developing Elementary Students' Geography Skills by Integrating Geospatial Informational Technologies. I was thinking about reading the abstract here, but I kind of went through the article and I picked out some really good questions that were posed and just the overall idea. So they begin by talking about the well, this article really focuses on longitude and latitude and how students need more practice, not just one simple chapter in social studies or a science book of longitude and latitude mapping skills. This needs to be a cross curriculum, lots of time to work on that geospatial awareness. And this was they quickly go around the history. 1976 or 1761's James Harrison completed the first test of longitude, and from there, geographers and cartographers they just are trying to, they're using processes to understand the world and are always creating their geospatial awarenesses, and it's really applicable for students in the language arts studies. The research, it says the study is situated with design-based research that is revised based upon experience. So it's giving these students actual experiences. It reminds me a lot of like a 5E model of science, that those based on experiences, and that's where students tweak the bugs and revise and retry these processes, and that's how they really grow that geospatial awareness. The research questions directed in this study were as followed. What effects do geospatial enriched instructional sequence have upon third grade students? What impacts do prior traditional instructions have upon students? And what are students' formal, curricular, and informal non-curricular experiences of learning and working with geospatial tools, latitude and longitude, map skills, and geospatial awareness? So the actor here, sorry, I need to bring up his name, Thomas Hemmon. So those were the questions that he posed. And the study was, of course, revolved around a third grade classroom. So I hope that sparks some curiosity and gets you guys thinking about developing these map skills and how important this strategy really is.
Your students, speaking of grade level modifications, you can modify map skills for any grade. So for K through second grade, you can begin by having them map like with their parents and map their house. This can be a room in their house or their whole house. And then in third to fifth grade, you can include drawing to scale, so get some math involved. And then for sixth to eighth grade, they can design the bigger maps, for example, a map of their town, and then they can give this to their younger siblings or new students who come in.
Nice, awesome. So moving down to now meeting the needs of English learners, teachers need to be sure that directions for completion of all these activities are well understood. Vocabulary terms and concepts such as gridding need to be demonstrated and displayed. Visual guidance such as large teacher-created maps can be used to model each concept of mapping that the students are required to know. In addition, all students in the class can be required to incorporate language other than English in their maps, legends, street names, and place names. So you can, that end part, just incorporating multiple types of culture there for of course, the street names and place names. So that's a pretty awesome way to incorporate some English ELL practice instruction.
And then we'll move to meeting the needs of students with special needs. So you can use a computer. You can have students dictate what they would like to create to a peer or an adult helper and have that person help them create their map. Or you can use like larger print on the maps, or even give them more detailed instructions.
Awesome. So moving on to our assessment section. So at the conclusion of the activities that we just presented, students were able to understand important concepts relating to map readings, apply these concepts to creations of local maps that is relevant to themselves, their classmates, and other community members. Students' mapping can be assessed using a simple yes or no rubric centered on teachers' expectations on what is developmentally appropriate for the learners and age group. This rubric should be shared with learners prior to the assignment so that they understand fully the criteria and requirements. I guess I'll read through some of these. So this is a possible rubric for third to fifth grade mapping. Simple yes or no. Mapping clearly shows locations the group considered important. Mapping shows that students understood all map concepts learning in class, yes or no. Map is drawn to scale. The symbol on the maps are clearly explained by the map's legend. Maps can be used easily by classmates to identify places or to go from location to location.
All right, well, thank you for listening, everybody, and we hope that we gave you some great ideas for developing map skills in your classroom.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.